Yes, Macbeth. And this topic that we want to deal is serenity at the end here. Or we can say that what we have in is tragic delight, or a question like why tragedies with all scenes of death are not pessimistic. Yes. What is the secret of optimism in tragedies? Yes. What is this secret of optimism in tragedies? Why, with all these things, they are not pessimistic? Tragedies. Why tragedies remain a great work of art? Great work of art. Tragedies. Well, because there is a kind of a tragic delight in this, and that plays a very significant or a very important role in this. So for centuries, we keep on going back to tragedies, and that happens. This optimism, this tragic delight, it comes from what we call it is serenity at the end in Shakespearean tragedies, in Greek tragedies in a different way. So what we mean by this, is that the writers, the protagonist, the tragic hero, the tragic hero is we can say on tragic hero there is a dawning of wisdom, a sort of, we can say, a sort of universal truth dawns upon tragic hero. He is dawning means parod thau, koi gnan nu parod thau, wisdom nu parod thau, dawning of some wisdom, knowledge, and that those observations made by tragic heroes at the end, just before the death. This normally happens just before the death. So we get a kind of a thing that, well, now this hero has got a serenity at the end, that is death. Before the death, this hero is satisfied. He has got some knowledge, or we can say it is his moksha, is near his nirvana, his moksha. He is very near to the journey of his life, and he ends his journey with something very valuable, and that is valuable to tragic hero is the real outcome for us from the work of art, and that we take it as some kind of universal truths that literature gives us. Literature gives us some sorts of universal truths, and that is where, and because of this, tragedies remain optimistic. Because of this, tragedies remain optimistic there. Okay, clear? This point is clear in your mind. What do we mean by serenity at the end? We try to justify why tragedies with all sins of death are not pessimistic. From where is this optimism coming? From this, where is this tragic delight? Why these tragedies remain great work of art with such a kind of a pessimistic ending? There is no happy ending. Then also why it remains great work of art? Because the hero before the death, just before the death, is experiencing dawning of wisdom, and that wisdom is very valuable for us, for posterity, for audience, for everybody. And these are our universal truths. These are great messages. These are great messages that we get from the troubled soul. The hero A tragic hero is a troubled person, maybe because of his own ambition, maybe because of that, or because of his inaction, or because of his jealousy. Hamlet, inaction, not able to do work, too much of thinking. Othello, jealousy, jealous, and so kills Desdemona. Macbeth, ambition. These are all tragic flaws in great heroes. Maybe because of all these kinds of things also we can see, but still what we see is that from that troubled person we get a great message about life. Our understanding of life improves or becomes better for us. That is why this becomes very important to see that tragedies are not pessimistic. They are still having optimism of some kind of better knowledge. So what is that in this? How do you justify this observation in this play? Yes, anybody can tell me? How do you see this in this particular play? Where do you find this serenity at the end, or this observation that we have made here? Something very valuable we are getting as universal truth or a kind of a wisdom from this play. Yes, anybody would like to tell me where is that in the play, how it comes, and what is that? What are those sentences? Yes, nobody? Any kind of wild guessing about what is this point?
Sir, this point consists of some moral values which is connected with human being, like a Macbeth done the scene, and at the end we find that Macbeth also has a punishment of that scene.
Yeah, okay,
So
okay, yeah,
someone
yeah, okay, fine. Now see, yeah, that is fine, but I'm looking for sentences. Which are those words? Okay, you are talking about situation. Okay, that also we can take. Situation also we can take. But apart from situations, what we want is words. Which words is there? Are there any words which tell us about this? Obviously, it must be spoken by Macbeth, because that is what we are seeing. It must be spoken by Macbeth. It must be spoken before his death. It must be spoken before his death. Yes, that is very clear. Before the death and spoken by Macbeth, and that is very valuable. So those are the lines which are the most valuable lines from the entire play. From the entire play, which are those the most valuable lines spoken by Macbeth at the end of the play? Yes, anybody? What are those most valuable lines spoken by Macbeth before his death at the end of the play?
tomorrow. That line, sir?
Yes, yes, that exactly. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Yes. Yes. So, see the repetition. Yeah, repetition of this. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Then creeps.
Trips in this petty piece from day to day.
From day to day. Yes.
Day.
Yes.
To the last syllable.
To the last syllable. To the last
Of
syllable
recorded time.
of
Of recorded time.
recorded time. Yes. Yeah.
And all our yesterdays.
And all our yesterdays
have lighted fools.
Lighted fools. Yeah.
Fools. The
The
way to dusty death.
the way to dusty
Dusty death.
death. Yeah. The way to dusty death. Yeah. Then
Out, out,
out,
out, out, out.
out, brief
Brief candle.
candle. Yeah. Out, brief candle. And then somebody else can read the other lines. Anybody else who will, if you have these lines open, you can read. Who else? Who was reading? Nidhi was reading right now. Who was reading? Yeah, Nidhi. Okay. Daya, do you have these lines? Then you can read. Huh? What is that after this? Out, brief candle. Or anybody else? Nobody else has put a camera on. I can see only 2 cameras on right now. So I'm asking them. Nobody else has put. If you can, anybody else can put a camera on and come and tell me what are the other lines. Yes, anybody else would like to put a camera on and tell me what are the other lines after this in this paragraph? Nobody is in a position to put a camera on?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you can put your camera on, and if you can read these lines.
And brief candles after lives, but walking.
You not put your camera on?
Sir, my one device is mobile, so I go to PDF, so my camera is off.
Okay, but try to see if you can put a camera on and then say, I want somebody who can put a camera on and then also read it. If you have written somewhere or in any other ways or through any other device or any other font. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. What is that after this?
Yes. Lives but a walking shadow.
Lives but a walking shadow.
A poor player.
A shadow. A
A
poor
player. That struts and frets.
That struts and frets. Yeah.
These are upon the stage.
Are upon the stage. Okay.
And then is heard no more.
Is heard no more. Okay.
It is a tale.
It is a tale
told by an idiot.
Told by an idiot.
Full of sound and fury.
Full of
sound
and fury.
Signifying nothing.
Signifying
nothing.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the most important lines that Macbeth speaks before his death, and that is what makes this play very optimistic. These lines, these words that are spoken here. Anybody would like to tell me what is the meaning of this? Anybody would like to try to say what is the sense of this sentence? If you somebody tells what is this paragraph tomorrow about, then what do we mean by this? And how can we analyze this beautiful poetry? What is the sense? How can we analyze? What are the imageries given in this? That all we can discuss here. Okay, so one point is clear, that what is the importance of this? What is this? Because in all Shakespearean tragedies, we find that at the end, before the death, the hero is getting some beautiful knowledge. There is dawning of some wisdom, and then he speaks something, and this is those lines. This is those lines where it comes, and then when we realize that, well, this is amazing message that not only Macbeth is getting, but everybody is getting about that. So what is that message that comes here in this? Okay, so if I try to summarize and try to see, what we can see is here is that Macbeth's speech is about the futility and illusoriness of all life. It is about the futility and illusoriness. Futility means nirarthakta. Nirarthakta and illusoriness. Futility and illusoriness of all life and everything we do, of all life and everything that we do, whatever we do, with whatever kind of ambitions that we try to do, those kinds. So everything is futile, nirarthak, illusory, brahmanao. We are all bound for the grave. We are all bound for the grave, for the death, towards the death. And life doesn't seem to mean anything ultimately. Ultimately, there is perhaps no meaning of life. There is no meaning. There is meaninglessness. Ultimately, there is meaninglessness. And see what all these things are. These are all what we have seen normally in absurd theater. Absurd theater, yes. So remember, we were seeing earlier that this play can be located, Shakespearean tragedy can be located. Macbeth as a Shakespearean tragedy can be located between Greek tragedies on one end and absurd theater of 20th century on another end. Now, this is the point where we are seeing that the meaninglessness about the life that absurd theater was dealing with, or it was the central theme of the absurd theater, nothingness, meaninglessness, anxieties of existentialism, all those things are incorporated in this last soliloquy by Macbeth. Yeah. Okay. And life doesn't seem to mean anything ultimately. He is responding, Macbeth is responding to the news that Lady Macbeth is dead here. It's the beginning of the end for him. This comes just after the news about the suicide committed by Lady Macbeth. There is, in fact, a couple of lines preceding this. There are few lines which are also very important. Before tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, which explicitly address the news that Lady Macbeth has died, but they are ambiguous. Those lines are very ambiguous, and then we can connect those lines and try to say there are dual meanings in those lines. Upon being told by Satan, S-E-Y-T-O-N, Satan, another character who tells that the lady has died. Satan, that the queen, my lord, I put in the quote, the queen, my lord, is dead. That is what is written in the play. Macbeth replies. See, the reply of Macbeth also is very important. She should have died hereafter. See, she should have died hereafter. There would have been time for such a word. There would have been time for such a word. Now, see, here Macbeth is not becoming melodramatic. Here, Macbeth is he gets a message. They loved each other a lot earlier, before the murder and other kinds of things. They loved each other. And the message came that she has passed away. Macbeth is not crying, not wailing, not running inside the room and picks up Lady Macbeth in the arms and tells that, well, why you have passed, why this happened, why that happened, scolding God or doing this or that. No, not those melodrama. It is not there at this point. It just says without any kind of emotion. કોઈ પણ જાતના લાગણીના ઉમળકા વગર મેકબેથ ખાલી એમ બોલે છે કે ક્યારેક તો આ થવાનું જ હતું, આજે નહીં તો કાલે, આજે નહીં તો કાલે, મરવાનું તો હતું જ કે. That is one meaning that it comes. Another meaning also can be read. Another meaning can also be read here. It says, so what does he mean by this? What does he mean by this? That she should have died hereafter. There would have been time for such a word. Is Macbeth simply saying she would have died at some point anyway? ક્યારેક તો મરવાનો જ હતું, અત્યારે મરી જાય કે પછી મરે, it doesn't make any difference. Or thus paving the way for his ensuing meditation on the futility of all human conditions, since it all led to the grave? Or is he saying it would have been better if she had died afterwards? Or he wants to say કે હમણાં જ શું કામ એમનું મૃત્યુ થયું, થોડા સમય પછી થયું હોત તો આ યુદ્ધ હું લડી લેત, આ યુદ્ધ હું જીતી જાત, આ યુદ્ધ બરાબર યુદ્ધના સમયે જ એમને મરવું હતું. એ પણ કદાચ એનો ભાવ હોઈ શકે, અથવા બીજો ભાવ કે ક્યારેક તો બધાને મરવાનું જ છે, અત્યારે એ મરી જાય છે, તો emotionless, which is the basic meaning of this quote here. The second line, there would have been time for such a word, inclines us towards the latter. Macbeth appears to be saying that it would have been preferable for Lady Macbeth to die peacefully after all of the conflict and battle. There would have been time to say their goodbyes and for him to mourn properly, not so in the heat of battle, which Macbeth is when he hears the news. Lady Macbeth's death prompts Macbeth to reflect upon the futility of all his actions. And then these lines come. So what is prompting these lines is the immediate death of Lady Macbeth. And then he ponders upon his entire life. And after looking back at his life, these are the valuable words, the words full of wisdom. They are coming out from the mouth of Macbeth. And take the kingdom for himself, which has spurred him on to commit murder, and then series of murders that went on happening afterwards also there. And now when we study, so this is the context of these lines, and when we try to see these lines, we say that tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, this time, it is the imagery of time, that time is constantly flowing, time is constantly moving, there is no ending of time. Today, this tomorrow, then this 5 words with 2 and 3 tomorrows is a very beautiful expression of flow of time. It is an imagery of time. It goes. Another imagery of time comes is yesterdays. This yesterdays, this day to day. These are the imageries of time that comes, and it tries to say that. So this line tries to say that, well, time keeps on moving. નિરંતર સમય ચાલતો જ રહે છે, એને કોઈ ફરક નથી પડતો કે કોઈ જીવે કે મરી જાય, whether this happens or that happens, how it happens or that. Well, the time is completely indifferent to people's happiness or worries, whether to their sorrows or suffering. Time is constantly moving without being affected by any of those emotions of people. Now, see, this is the very idea, very interesting idea of time. What we call it samay. Samay is what we call it, samay, time. And in this retelling of Mahabharat by B.R. Chopra, that is televised version of this, was narrated by Samay, who was the narrator. The narrator of that Mahabharat was not Ganesh, who was the writer, was the original writer in the original myth. But here it was not Ganesh or anybody writing. Here it was time who was telling us the story. And that was, we can say, a master stroke. If you want to use the cliche word master stroke, then it was a wonderful idea, because time is eternal. Time is eternal. Time is forever. Time remains. Time passes. And in the paradox, એ નિરંતર છે પણ અને નથી પણ, સતત નાશ થતો જતો પણ છતાં પણ એ હકીકતમાં રહે. That is the paradox of time. constantly dying and constantly coming into existence. That is how it keeps on flowing. So tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time, and all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. All our yesterdays has proved to be fools. They are meaningless. They are lighted fools, and then to dusty death. So all those yesterdays has gone to dusty death. When yesterday was today, it was so important. People say, well, today is present. Today is present. So leave it. It is a present. આ તો ભેટ છે, gift છે. Today is in present tense. એટલે લોકો એમ કહે કે ગઈકાલની વાત ન કરે, આવતીકાલની ચિંતા ન કરો. Today, but all today is turned into yesterdays, and then goes down to dusty deaths. This, and then there are so many tomorrows that keep on coming, and we never know how tomorrows or what is hidden in tomorrows for us, and we don't know what is hidden in the tomorrows for us. So this out brief candle. To candle again is a symbol of light, and it's out એટલે candle ને કહે છે તો બુજાઈ જા, out એટલે બુજાઈ જવા માટે. એને આપણે કહીએ કે ઓલવી નાખવું. એક શબ્દ ગુજરાતીમાં એવો પણ લોકો વાપરતા કે રામ કરી દેવું, બત્તી રામ કરી દો, મીણબત્તી રામ કરી દો. રામ કરી દો એટલે ઓલવી દો. આપણે જેમ બોલીએ રામ બોલો ભાઈ રામ થઈ ગયા, એટલે રામ શરણ થઈ ગયા. કદાચ સ્વર્ગમાં ગયા હશે એમ આપણે અપેક્ષા એવી રાખીએ, ક્યાં ગયા હોય તો ખબર ન હોય, પણ આપણે કહીએ કે રામ શરણ, રામ થઈ જવું, કોઈનું રામ થઈ જવું. ઇન્ટરેસ્ટિંગ વર્ડ. રામ શબ્દ ક્યાં હોય અને ક્યાં આપણે વાપરીએ. મૃત્યુના એક પ્રત્યય તરીકે પણ આપણે રામ શબ્દને વાપરીએ. out brief candle. And then this line, life's but a walking shadow. What is life? Life for Macbeth here or Shakespeare here is nothing but a shadow. It is a mere shadow, illusion. Shadow is illusion of light. There is a candle, there is a shadow. A poor player. Who are we? We are bichara. Poor means bichara. Poor here is not garib. Poor is not garib. Yes, poor is bichara. Poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage. We strut and fret. We try to do this. We try to do that. All meaningless actions we do. That is called struts and frets. એ જાત જાતના નખરાઓ કરે, જાત જાતનું કંઈક કરવાના પ્રયત્નો કરે. Struts and frets is hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. And then is heard no more. What is life? Life is a tale. It's story told by an idiot. Life is a story not told by some great like Ganpati or Vedvyas or by Valmiki, but by an idiot. It is is something that is told by an idiot, full of sound and fury. ખૂબ જ ગોકીરો હોય, sound and fury. ખૂબ જ શોર બકોર, જેમ અત્યારે હું શોર બકોર કરું છું. જાત જાતના નખરા કરીને અહીંયા લાઈટ ચાલુ કરીએ ને અહીંયા લખીએ ને પેલો કેમેરો કરીએ ને આ કેમેરો કરીએ ને. We strut and fret. અને હમણાં 4 વાગશે એટલે બધું ઓલવાઈ જશે. આપણે બત્તી બુજાઈ જશે, આપણે રામ થઈ જશું પછી. અને એમાં કોરોના થશે તો સાવ રામ થઈ જશે. તો ખ્યાલ નહીં પછી પાછા આવી બત્તીઓ જગાવવા આવશું કે નહીં. બટ sound and fury, lots of noise, this, and signifying nothing. And ultimately all those things signifying nothing. Remember, તમારા BA ના વર્ષમાં તમારા સાહેબોએ બહુ રાડો પાડી હશે. બધું જ ઓલવાઈ ગયું. આજે કોઈ વસ્તુ મહત્વની નથી. આજે કોઈ પૂછે કે તમારા સિલેબસમાં કયું નાટક હતું તો યાદ પણ ન હોય. કયું નાટક હતું એટલે એમ થાય નાટક હતું કે નહીં. તો લાઈક મેની પીપલ લોકો કે ભાઈ તમે somebody જે નવા એડમિશન લીધા એમાંથી કોઈ એક વિદ્યાર્થીનો મેસેજ હતો કે આ તમે શેક્સપિયરની નવલકથા ભણાવો છો હજી મને ખબર નથી. એટલે મારે પૂછવું પડ્યું કે નવલકથા શેક્સપિયરની હું નથી ભણાવતો. આપણે નવલકથા ભણતા જ નથી અત્યારે, પણ વાર લાગે કે આ નવલકથા અને નાટકમાં ફરક હોય તો એનાથી શું ફરક પડે? એ બધા શબ્દો છે, ખાલી ખોટા શબ્દો છે. નવલકથા કયો કે નાટક કયો, અમારે તો સમરી જ બધું હોય. અમારે તો સમરી જ હોય બધું. વિકીપીડિયા કે સ્પાર્ક નોટમાં લખી હોય એ સમરી જ હોય. એમાં શું નાટક ને શું નવલકથા? એવરીથિંગ ઇઝ સાઉન્ડ એન્ડ ફ્યુરી ઓનલી, સિગ્નિફાઈંગ નથિંગ. તો એમ જેમ BA ના ટીચરો મેથી મારીને ચાલતા થયા. મેથી મારવી પણ ગુજરાતીનો રૂઢિપ્રયોગ છે. કોઈને ઉપર મેથી મારવી જે આપણે શબ્દ ઉપયોગ, એમ હવે MA માં અમે મેથી મારશું 2 વર્ષ પછી અમે ચાલ્યા જશું. And everything at the end of the day, people will say signifying nothing. Signifying nothing. That is how it can be seen. Let us see some of the other important things here in imagery in this line. The passage is full of meaning, and there is so much one can say about it, but we can look at it only from the way Shakespeare uses imageries, various imageries which are used here. That is also very important to be seen here. If we do that, we are reminded that any idea of the bards, that is poet Shakespeare's, not being the greatest ever of the English language ever would be absurd. At this moment, Macbeth's suffering is intense and becoming unbearable. Macbeth is in a situation where he is his suffering is unbearable for him. Battle is going on and wife is dying. In that context, his victim's ghost is haunting him, his guilt is torturing him, his enemies are closing in on him, his wife has gone mad, and now he has just heard that she has committed suicide. He would expect a response with language that express a wild and desperate state of mind. So you require a language which tries to express the wildness of mind, the intensity of the mind that needs to be expressed. That's what it seems like, with his mind jumping from one idea to the next without any logic. It seems like his mind is moving from one idea to another without any logic. He mentions time. He mentions time, the candles, acting. Acting also is mentioned here, and theater, shadow, tale, varta, tale, told, idiot. All these things he is mentioning, and all these things are imagery. All these things are wonderful imageries. So if we say that here Macbeth is talking about time, then suddenly talks about candles, then speaks about acting, then theater, then shadow, then tale, that is narrated, told, telling of a tale, and then some idiot. If you see all these kinds of things, then we find that there is no logic that is connecting everything. Then there is no rational logic. That it seems like this is disturbed mind. This is a disturbed mind which is trying to speak. And so all these imageries that go, they do not connect logically with each other in an interesting way. I would refer to the film. This film was Tamasha. Have you seen film Tamasha? Imtiaz Ali's film Tamasha. Anybody has seen? Anybody? Nobody has seen film Tamasha. Tamasha, Imtiaz Ali, Ranbir Kapoor is playing a role of a protagonist. It's a very interesting film. If not the entire film, at least see the beginning sequence, beginning 15-20 minutes, earlier part of that. If you will see, you will find it on YouTube also. And if you watch it, then let me know what you have seen in that film. But it's very interesting, the very idea about this corporate world, and how we become a kind of a puppet in a corporate world, and how you want to go back to stories. You want to go back to stories, to the narration. So little boy is going to an old fellow. The old man was telling him stories, and whatever pocket money is given to him, he will give pocket money to old person to tell the stories. And a very interesting sequence comes that if you read the story of Layla Majnu, Soni Mahiwal, and many other stories, you find that they are one and the same stories. વાર્તા એકની એક જ લાગે, એકની એક જ વાર્તા, તોય પાછા લોકો વાર્તા શું કામ કરે? એટલું બધું સાહિત્ય લખાઈ ગયું છે. હવે નવું સાહિત્ય ન લખો તોય ચાલે. હવે શું જરૂર છે સાહિત્ય લખવાની? કેટલા બધી ફિલ્મો બની ગઈ છે. એ ફિલ્મો જોઈ લેશું ત્યાં જ આપણે મરી જશું. હવે નવી ફિલ્મોની શું જરૂર છે? But it is necessary. We can't live without telling stories. We can't live without telling. ભલે એ જ વાર્તા હોય તો મારે મારી રીતે કેવી છે વાર્તા? મારે વાર્તા જીવવી છે. I want to live the story. I can't, we can't. Human beings cannot live without stories in one or the another way. But a very interesting message. That film, Tamasha, Imtiaz Ali's film, was very interesting. For the students of literature, lovers of literature, art, એમના માટે તો ખાસ એ વિચાર. કારણ કે એક બાજુ બિઝનેસ વર્લ્ડ છે, એક બાજુ બિઝનેસ વર્લ્ડ છે. ત્યાં લોકો એમ કહેતા હોય કે મેનેજર બનો તો એટલા પૈસા મળે, મેનેજર બનો તો આટલો પગાર થાય. અને બીજી બાજુ આપણે સાહિત્યમાં બેઠા બેઠા વાર્તાઓ કરતા હોય અને લોકો સમજે આ વાર્તાઓ કરવાથી શું મળશે, કે કઈ નહીં મળે તમને, ક્યાંય કોઈ નોકરી પણ નહીં આપે. સો then this idea, this fight, નોકરી, જીવન, પૈસા, being a corporate person, being a lover of art, how things are different, that is all very interesting. So that film was trying to address those issues, all those things. That all thing comes here also. Acting, theater, shadow, life, tale told by an idiot. Is that so? Vartao so idioto dwara thai. Does it signify nothing? So all these questions. But it seems to be a disturbed mind. Macbeth seems to be a disturbed mind from where this beautiful line is coming. These beautiful lines are coming. So it has no logic. So there is no intellectual logic in the development of the passage, but the poetical imaginative logic makes the piece very tight, and one of the most remarkable achievements one could find in English poetry. Rationally there is no logic. Imageries, if we see this image, tomorrow, yesterday, આ ભાગને તો સમજતાય બહુ વાર લાગે કે આ શું કહેવા માંગે છે. આમાં કશું કઈ સ્પષ્ટ જ થતું નથી. Creeps in this pity pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time, and all our yesterdays have lighted fools to way to dusty death. પણ શું, what is this? એમ થાય આવું કઈ કે છે પણ એક્ઝેક્ટલી હજી પકડાતું નથી શું કે છે. Why? કારણ કે disturbed mind માંથી આવે છે. Macbeth is completely disturbed from that. So there is no rationality that is intellectually it is connecting to those kinds of things. બીજી રીતે જોઈએ તો you also will find that normally the talks about literature is not that intellectual or that rational way that we can understand it. It is not possible to understand. So when this farm agitations are going on, at that time if you read Gram Mata, people say you are a fool, you are stupid, this poem signifies nothing. What government wants to do is to modernize. We want to modernize. We want to have a new India, Naya Bharat, Bharat Uday. We want shining India, and we need changes. Without all these changes, things will not happen. Your Kalapi is stupid. Your Kalapi is stupid. His tale is told by an idiot. So in that way, people will say, well, this is just sound and fury. All literatures are mere sound and furies. They are tales told by idiots. They signify nothing. The real world is something else. But when you say in our this world, in the tales that is told by an idiot, these real heroes are actually villains. The real life heroes are actually villains in this. These are Macbeths. These are very cruel people. But then if you tell the living people that you are this, then they become more angry. And the followers also become more angry. They say that, well, this signifies nothing. So you say there is poetic truth. There is poetic truth. And poetic and literary truths are never true at this moment. They become true later on. એટલે કલાપીની ગ્રામ્ય માતા એ પ્રસંગ બને ત્યારે સમજાય કે કલાપી શું કહેવા માંગતો હતો. કલાપી પોતે રાજા હતો. He also was a king. Still he was able to tell કે ના, અમારા મનની અંદર પણ સ્વાર્થ જાગે, રાજાઓના મનમાં પણ સ્વાર્થ જાગે. He was self-critical also. He was self-critical. એટલે રાજાને પેલી ગ્રામ માતાના પગમાં પડતો એક કલ્પના દ્રશ્ય ઊભું કરે કે માફી માગે છે. પણ આજે એ રાજા હોય તો માફી ન માગે. આજે તો એને નાનપતા લાગે કે આપણે અમે કઈ માફી માગીએ કે ના, એ માફી માંગવાનું તો ન જ આવે. So that is, but literature, that truth, it is everlasting truth, and in flashes it comes. In flashes it comes before our eyes. So it says it has no intellectual logic, but it has a poetical imaginative logic in these lines that we can see. In this soliloquy, Macbeth is a man for whom life has ceased to have meaning. He starts with a statement of the futility of life and of time itself, with images of time, tomorrow, yesterday, day, recorded time, using a rhythm that stretches time out, making it very creep. The time itself becomes very creep when in all these imageries, time is seen through tomorrow, through day, through recorded time, through yesterdays, going into dusty deaths. Then there is a mention of light. There is a mention of light here. Candle is the mention of light that comes here. But it's only a daylight to guide us to the darkness of death. Death is darkness. Death is darkness. and he is moving towards darkness. He is moving towards death, and he has seen perhaps his end coming very near. The light has come naturally from the images of time, particularly the word day. In death, that light is extinguished like a candle, which is the next image, and the candle's light is brief. Brief means short-lived. Tuku jivan, brief. Tuku jivan ho. Brief. Uh, like life, compared with the long period of night to the night to come. Candles cast shadows. Candles cast shadows, and so you get an image of shadows, which gives rise to next image, life as a walking shadow. So candles, then there is this, then the candle comes, then the light comes, then the shadow comes. See the connection in the imageries. So you say it is not illogic, but there is a poetic logic. Shadow, and if you have one shadow, there are many shadows, and if you have many shadows, then you start seeing somebody moving on the stage. There, shadows after shadows, and then you see life is a kind of a walking shadow. Then you see shadow that is walking, lot many shadows moving on there. Otherwise, you can say that shadows can never walk. A walking shadow, a very interesting imagery, a paradox in itself. Shadows cannot walk, shadows just can follow the object, and if it is an object, then shadows cannot walk. But here he says life is a walking shadow. Life is a walking shadow. In another term, for an actor on the stage, so the shadow thrown by the candle creates the image of the actor on the stage. The actor plays out the dramas and anguish of human life, strutting and fretting, but that only lasts for the performance, up till the performance ends, and then he goes home, and you don't hear from him again. His passion has been shallow passion. He came there, he performed, and he went home. The passion became very shallow, just an act, just for a very short time. All that is representation of life. It's full of empty passion, that is sound and fury, signifying nothing. Empty passion that is just the raving of an idiot. It doesn't last, and it's meaningless. It doesn't last for a long time, and it is meaningless. So if we study in BA and if it doesn't last, if it doesn't come to MA, then it is meaningless. If what we study in MA is not helpful in life, in real life situations when we go, it is all meaningless, that we can say. It's a short piece of verse that sums up not only a weariness of life, tiredness of life, but a whole philosophy of life. There is a whole philosophy of life incorporated in these poetic lines, and its futility. Life and its futility. Each image gives birth to a new one, and the beautiful logic develops in that way. And it captures perfectly the state of mind of the speaker. There is no wonder it's one of the most famous and beautiful lines in English poetry, not only in drama, but in poetry also. And the play ends with this serenity at the end. And we feel that Macbeth has grown. Macbeth is ready for death. And this vision that he has visualized is very helpful to us as a kind of universal truth also, as universal truth, as the wisdom that the troubled person has gained at the end of his life. That makes Macbeth also a great hero, a hero villain, but his greatness comes from his wisdom that he is acquiring at the end of his life. From where? From his experience of life. It is not coming from any book. This is not coming from any book. It is not bookish wisdom. It is the experience, the wisdom that is coming out of real life, that is lived by Macbeth, and that is what is lived by many people also in real world there. So that is how it is. So with these lines, when a tragedy ends, tragedy becomes optimistic. Tragedy becomes optimistic. Even with the deaths, tragedy remains something having what we call tragic delight. It has tragic delight in its ends also there. Okay, any questions if you have in this? So this is like looking at the entire Shakespearean tragedy in bits and pieces, which also incorporate so many other questions also. Okay. Yes, any questions? Anybody? If you have, you can ask. Okay, understood it. Okay, so now, okay, fine. If everything is okay, then Let me stop the recording here.